Coon Rapids Bayard head baseball coach John Waddle joining us here tonight after a 12-2 victory over Woodbine in 5 innings, picking up career victory number 600. John, I know last night when I talked to you after the game down at Elkhorn, you were saying that it's more about just getting better and taking each game one at a time. But after this game ended tonight and they had the ceremony and you heard some of the history that you already knew about yourself, did you start to reflect on your career here so far at Coon Rapids Bayard?
No doubt about it, Jeff. It was a moving ceremony for me. You know, it was emotional, very appreciative. I think you saw a good snapshot of how the fans have treated myself and our family, and you know, we've been taken in from day one, and that's made the transition a whole lot easier.
Coach, you started here in 1984. As I was listening to the presentation tonight, came to a program that had not been very successful. How were you able to turn this thing around as quickly as you did?
I think enthusiasm to start with. Brought some stuff from college, and you know, we had some talented kids. There was some talent in the program, and they believed. Once we got a couple wins under our belt, it started a little rocky. I think we started out like 1-3, and then just caught fire after that. And had a couple good pitchers in Chris Fine and a Brad Honnold, and they threw quite a few games for us. And we just got on a roll, and the kids started having fun. And I think it was the first time they experienced some success in baseball at that level.
When did you feel like, and I'm sure you still feel like this program can improve every day, but when did you feel like, okay, I've got the program headed in the right direction, this is kind of where I want this program to go?
Well, we didn't play a lot of games early in my career, not as many as we do now. I think it turned when the pitching rules changed and stuff, when you could start working with the kids legally in the off season. You know, we want to follow the rules and stuff, but when they allowed us the freedom to work with kids, we really have taken advantage of that over the years. And probably in the late 90s is when we pumped up our schedule to 30, 35 plus, started adding 2A schools and some 3A schools, which really focused our attention on improving each and every day, because you can't get away with some of the mistakes you can against lesser teams, and it forces you to practice harder.
Coach, how much do you feel like you've grown since 1984 as a coach?
You could probably ask my players. I've grown a lot. As Coach Hayden would say, I have mellowed. I have mellowed considerably. I think you focus more on the game at hand. I don't say a whole lot anymore to the umpires. You know, you're a little fiery earlier in your career and stuff because you're all excited and trying to keep things going. But I think you can keep it in perspective a little bit more. I think one of our strengths in the program is we've been willing to change over the years, Jeff. If we find something that we think is better than what we're doing, we'll make the change. We just have to believe in it, and then we have to sell it to our kids. We've done it offensively. We've done it in the fielding aspect of things. So I think our willingness to change because of technology and, you know, clinics and that type of stuff, you can constantly learn something, and I think our kids know that too, that we'll come back with something new for them.
Coach, it seems like and I've been here 11 years watching this program, fundamentals is usually the first thing I think of when it comes to Coon Rapids Bayard baseball. Is that something that you preach really hard to these kids?
Absolutely. We have a little saying that outs have to be outs. We didn't do a good job of it this weekend necessarily, and our kids know that. We got beat by some good teams, and you get beat up when you don't execute. But we do a lot of situational work, put them in live situations during practice. I've done more of that, you know, as my career has evolved. Kind of give the kids a lot more freedom and don't dictate as many things. And so I think I've grown as a coach too. I've learned to maybe be a better teacher and a better coach overall.
Talk about some of the former players. You mentioned some of the good pitchers you had when you first got here. You've had a lot of great players go through. Who are some of the players that when you look back, or maybe some of the better players you've had come through this program? And you've probably had a lot, so it's probably hard to pick a few.
That's a loaded question. I'm going to get in trouble on this one because I'm going to forget someone, you know that.
Absolutely, and I'm sure they'll understand.
You know, I mentioned Brad Honnold and Chris Fine started us out. Those guys had good arms. Chris was a senior at the time, and Brad was a sophomore. And then Brad led us for a couple years after that. He had a very lively arm, could have played at the next level. Decided to get an education at Iowa State. He was very, very good. You know, and recently Gage Reese was exceptional on the mound. Mike Neese was a pitcher of the year. Bob Feller, pitcher of the year. He was exceptional too. And Coach Hayden himself is a pretty darn good pitcher too. He told me as an 8th grader he didn't want to pitch. I said, I'll let you know when you don't want to pitch. So that's one thing too in our program. You're a pitcher until we tell you different, because a lot of kids tend to evolve as they work at it, and by the time they're sophomores, juniors, and seniors, they can contribute. We've had some great position players too. You know, Jacob, our son, was a pretty good catcher. Like I said, there's so many out there, it's hard to remember all of them.
Coach, how do you figure out as these kids come up, where they're going to play, where they're going to fit in, and kind of create those roles for these guys?
Well, we have to sell it to them, first of all. We always have them fill out a sheet at the beginning of the year. Where do you want to play? Because if we can put them where they want to play, it's helpful. But then we just have to kind of move guys around where we think that they can help the team best. And I've done that with so many players. I think you saw it in Jake Esdor, was a great player for us too. He really was a true shortstop when he came through. But I said, Jake, for us to be as good as we can be, we really need you to catch. He wasn't sold on it, but he went back and did it just because it was a team concept. I had another kid, Andy Seidel, that did the same thing. He moved to the outfield for us. So I think the willingness of our kids to believe in the team concept and to say, hey, you know what, if I can go play this position to the best of my ability, it's going to make us a good baseball team. So there's a lot of kids besides those two that have done that.
Coach, how much have you seen the game change over the last 30 years?
Not that much. Baseball is still pretty true to form. It's a traditional game. You got to catch the ball, you got to throw the ball, or you can't play defense. So we preach that each and every day. And then it all comes down to on the mound. If you've got pitching and you got guys that can pound the strike zone, that's a huge difference. And like I mentioned, our ability to work with the kids now throughout the winter, we think has really allowed high school baseball in Iowa to get better too.
Coach, where did your love for the game come from?
I just grew up as a sports junkie. I was always shooting and playing ball, and quite honestly, coming out of college, I probably was looking more forward to being a head basketball coach than I was a baseball coach. I almost didn't go out for baseball in college. I was a basketball player, and my basketball coach in college talked me into going out and said, John, you need to give it a try your freshman year and see if you like it. So I decided to do that, and I went out for baseball, and I absolutely loved it. It was just kind of a different atmosphere, a little less intense, fun to be around the guys. And so I ended up being a two-sport athlete there. And so my love grew there. And then I had the opportunity to be the head coach here at Coon Rapids Bayard and assistant coach underneath Brad Schlepp. And I think that was the key to my career too. I came in '83. I didn't coach the first summer. I taught, and I had the opportunity to be underneath Brad Schlepp as an assistant coach in basketball. I got to see a veteran, an intense person, a no-nonsense person deal with kids and say sometimes you got to make tough decisions to be a good coach. I owe a lot to him, I really do, because had I not had him first, I don't know if I'd have been as good that first year.
Coach, was looking at the list today of coaches around the state and how many wins they had. Saw today that you're about 8th or 9th as far as coaches that have done a one school now to get to 600 victories. What does that mean to you, and why has been Coon Rapids the place that you've really made your home?
I think that probably is kind of an amazing thing, especially at the 1A level. A lot of coaches bounce in and out of the programs. So I think the stability is one of the reasons for our success. And then just the community of Coon Rapids. My wife grew up in a small town in Monona up in northeast Iowa, and I grew up in a small town in Urbana over by Cedar Rapids. And so we're small town people. We were welcomed here when we first came, and we've been welcomed ever since. And so we just like that atmosphere. It's a great place to have our kids grow up, and just the community. They come out. It's neat. You're the focal point in the summer. It's just special.
Well, Coach, we appreciate you joining us here tonight. Go celebrate this with your family, your friends, and your teammates.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the coverage.
Head Coach John Waddle.